for coming out this bright and early day to the third Hawaii Annual Co-Challenge. To get everyone in the right frame of mind, I'd like us to take a moment of silence for us to contemplate the people and places that have been affected by the recent large hurricanes and typhoons around the world. Think about how the island nations are already experiencing the effects of rising sea levels and their homes are disappearing. And then think about how you can be a part of the change in our society and can hopefully change these trends. So just take a few moments and think. Starting today, you have the chance to make an impact on our community by innovating and exploring solutions to challenges relating to our sustainability, our community, and our government. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Beth Kutch, and I am the coordinator for the HACC this year. I just want to get a couple housekeeping things out for you. Please remember to turn your cell phones to silent. And to let you know that this event is being live streamed, videotaped, and photographed, so we are really documenting it. And by attending, you are giving us your permission to use your images. You may notice that we're doing things a little bit different this year. We are trying to reduce our footprint as much as possible with less printing, using less paper, trying to use as many compostable materials as possible, and taking many other steps along the way to be a green event. So thank you for your cooperation in this effort, bringing your water bottle, bringing your dish, your silverware if you did, and just want to go over what our agenda is for today. So we've made it through registration and check-in. We are doing our welcome comments right now. And then we will present the challenges from our 7 different departments. After that, we will have lunch and you will have time to talk with the organizations and the challenge leaders and to start to talk to potential team members. We'll come back, we'll do a review of our rules and judging criteria, sponsor remarks, and then some of the tools that you'll be using this year. And then you'll have some time for team formation and collaboration this afternoon. And we'll be closing hopefully right around 3:45. So without further ado, I would now like to bring up Todd Nakapoi. He's the Chief Information Officer of the state of Hawaii.
Whoa, good morning. How's everyone doing today? Woo. You guys excited? This is the 3rd annual Hawaii Cold Challenge. How many of you have been here for the last 2? Raise your hand. Hey, good job. How many was here last year? All right. So you guys excited this year to try something different? Yeah? All right, as you know, we're in the 3rd year of our Hawaii Annual Cold Challenge, and this year we're doing things a lot different, right? We've actually focused our entire challenge this year on sustainability, which I think is great based on all the goals and objectives that we have in the state for reaching our sustainability goals. This year, we also have a brand new partnership with Hawaii Pacific University and Hawaii Technology Development Corporation to help us put this event on. So let's give them a round of applause. Again, the challenges this year will focus around sustainability, social, economic, environmental, and obviously it's gauged by the Aloha Plus Challenge dashboard, and we're going to explain to you guys what that is. We're looking for with indicators that focus on energy, climate, food and agriculture, waste, natural resources, community well-being, education, and the economy. We've worked with our partners, Hawaii Green Growth, to identify all of these challenges, and we're hoping that some of these we'll be able to push them into fruition, and you'll see them show up on the dashboard, right? As a result of this sustainability theme, one of the big things we wanted to incorporate into this year's hackathon, which is again different, is we're combining the agathon. Did anyone participate in last year's state agathon? Hey, awesome. So this year, that's combined with this event. So we're trying to get everybody together as one community with all of our resources in place to help all of you develop and come up with great challenges and solutions. So with that, I want to introduce the person that actually came up with this idea to have an annual code challenge and to put this on in this way, and that's Governor David Egan.
Aloha. It's really exciting for me to be here today at the launch of the third annual Hawaii Annual Code Challenge. I'm excited to see so many of you are new to the challenge. You know, we hope to be able to doing an event like this every year. And this was started 3 years ago, trying to get accomplished a couple of very simple things. One, I did want the departments and agencies to be more innovative and be able to understand that applications and codes that are developed by local developers here can really help them achieve their long-term goals within the agencies to be more effective and efficient and really incorporate technology into each of their agencies. So I had begun by asking the agencies to kind of put themselves out there and some of the challenges they have and really be open to working with all of you here to find technology solutions that really advances the mission of the agencies as well as coding and supporting the code community here in the islands. The second goal obviously was to create more activity around innovation and give our local coders the opportunity to get together, code, and really demonstrate what it is that we can do here to really address the issues that are important to the departments and agencies. And that's kind of what this event really is about. The third thing was really then to connect all of you with many of the agencies so that they can listen to the kinds of questions. You have a chance to hear what the challenges they're facing, and they can hear what some of your ideas might be to help them solve the challenges that they see. And I would like to tell you that the departments, agencies, organizations from the state side who participated in the previous two code challenges really felt that there was mutual benefits to this code challenge in a way that allowed them to expand their thinking and really look to the local coding community to help them find some of the challenges that we face. I'm really excited this year because Todd has kind of merged two of my personal priorities together. You know, first, obviously, is as an electrical engineer, my support for expanding and growing the coding community here in the islands, and really being able to support local solutions for the challenges that the state faces. But the second is about sustainable Hawaii and about my commitment and our commitment as a community for a more sustainable future to assure that we can leave behind a better Hawaii than the one that we inherited from our forefathers. And this year we're focused on sustainable Hawaii, and you'll hear a little later about that first group of dashboards that we put together to measure our commitment and our progress in sustainability here in the islands. That's one of the opportunities that will be presented to all of you. You might be able to think about and think about solutions that you might offer. But you know, we definitely know that climate change is real, and I'm proud of the fact that Hawaii is still the only state that really has legally committed to the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. That we are actively working with other states as part of the U.S. Climate Alliance to really recognize that we need to take immediate action, and we need to take immediate action now in order to head off global warming and sea level rise. So I'm excited because you get to be a part of this merger of support for technology and commitment to a sustainable Hawaii. And I look forward to, the past two code challenges has really developed applications and solutions that has helped our agencies move forward. And I'm confident, looking at all of you, that we'll have another set of solutions generated from this code challenge that will help our agencies be better. So thank you very much for being here, for deciding to be a part of the third annual code challenge. I look forward to at the end of the period, where we have an opportunity for all of you to present your solutions to the judges and panel. So aloha and mahalo. Good luck.
So one quick announcement. If you guys are looking for seats, there's some seats over here if you guys want to filter in this way. I know you guys want to be able to see the screen and the challenges, so you guys can come on up and find some seats wherever you guys can. And is there anybody else outside? No. Thank you, thank you. So this year, like I said, we're looking for a new nonprofit to sponsor us. And when Hawaii Pacific University heard we were looking for a sponsor to help us put on this event, they stepped up. The two professors specifically, Stuart Crawford, who is Associate Professor and Chair of Computer Science and Engineering, and Edward Souza, Program Chair and Instructor of Information Systems. Heard that we needed help. They really engaged HPU. Brooke, Kara, I know we haven't met Brooke, but I know that you've stepped up heavily for us, and we really appreciate that, chasing down a lot of the things that we needed to do. As a result, HPU is actually helping us host some of these events too. So the next couple of things that go on over the weekends are going to be at HPU this year. So and if you haven't been to their new venue down at Wall Tower, you'll love it. It's an awesome venue. I highly encourage you guys to come down to take a look at the next two events that are going to be down there. Today, I'd like to introduce Dean William Ray of HPU, of the College of Business, to share a little bit about HPU's connection to the Hawaii Annual Code Challenge.
One of Governor Higa had to lead. What a great vision to facilitate this. So we're extremely thankful for that, and the HPU is really honored to be a part of hosting this event. I heard some college students give their main reasons for involvement in hackathons. One guy said, it's hard for me to get a date on the weekend anyway, so. Another said, I can surf all day, but I can code all day and all night. But the most important was there's always free food at these events, so always important. But actually, hackathons are an incredible phenomenon, market-driven around the world. And last year, there were over 4,000 hackathons, about half of which were in the U.S. And about 25% of participants, students, about 40% professionals, and then a lot of independents. Terrific opportunities to develop technology, to develop financial ideas, retailing ideas, healthcare, manufacturing. So there's been a number of foci. And it's amazing place for industry to find talent. And there's so much talent in this room, I can almost feel that vibe. There's one whose electric bill this past month is approaching the national debt level. I really hope we can focus on this, getting the sustainable electrical costs down and affordable, okay? That's an important one. I just wanted to mention how important innovation is in order to help human flourishing. I'm going to just give you a thumbnail of innovations over the years. So over 120,000 years ago, man harnessed fire. About 3,500 BC, the wheel and the axle commercial use of the compass, 200 BC. The Romans started nails about the start of the Roman Empire. And in the 1300s, we started having common use of the clock and the printing press. And then in the 17 and 1800s, the Industrial Revolution, when we had the camera, internal combustion, telephone, electrical generation, the light bulb, automobiles, mass production of steel, railroads. In 1900s, it brought us airplanes, missiles, x-rays, penicillin, satellites, fission, fusion, the internet, and personal computers. And you know, I was just talking with Brooke Carroll, who was very instrumental in helping this event happen, thinking about iPhones, 2007. I mean, these are like part of what drives our lives now. They've only been around for a little over 10 years. So it's phenomenal. It's a crazy, wonderful world. Just read where Lyft capitalized or is now a $1 billion company, and Apple is the first $1 trillion company. And Elon Musk has already completely disrupted 3 complete industries and made the world a better place. So as a result of intellectual freedom and economic freedom, innovation has caused society to flourish. You can see that starting with the Industrial Revolution, that pace has picked up intensely. It's amazing, the innovative advances. And to be honest, you know, we take a look at how bad things we think are. We have never been in a better place in the world. We have never had as good a health care. We have never had as high an average GNP. We have never had as advanced technology. We are in a great place, and it's because of innovation. And because of folks like you, that is going to continue. So why involved in a hackathon? Because innovation is the key to human flourishing. And that's recognized by governments, it's recognized by corporations, it's recognized by nonprofits. And another good reason to be involved is you did get free food, which is a good thing. So some would say that this is all about cooperation, and of course cooperation is important, but I also lay out the challenge. This is about competition, and competition is what makes things faster, smarter, better, and more sustainability. So my challenge to all of you is to compete, come up with the best, be faster, smarter, better, more sustainable, and build skills and networks and help build a better life for everyone in Hawaii. Thank you so much for being here. Onward and upward. Go get them.
Thank you, Dean Ray. We appreciate all that Hawaii Pacific University has brought to the Hawaii Annual Code Challenge this year. As you are well aware now that the theme of the Code Challenge this year is sustainability. Hopefully you're getting that, right? So the organization that really helped us connect with different state governments, offices, to find the challenges that we're going to be presenting to you today is Hawaii Green Growth, which is a public-private partnership that catalyzes action across sectors to help achieve Hawaii's sustainability and climate goals. They work with diverse stakeholders, interests, they try to create shared value, and they are the ones who really help to develop the Aloha Plus dashboard by going out there, meeting with hundreds upon thousands of people and organizations to get input and to start to figure out where the community can connect into sustainability. So today I'd like to introduce Celeste Connors, Executive Director of Hawaii Green Growth, to help explain a little bit more about how sustainability fits with our challenges today.
Good morning and aloha. I'll just modify a little bit the previous statement. I'd say it's cooperation, but I would say coopetition. Because what we're going to talk about a little bit today is public-private partnerships and how this is a group effort. Really delighted to be here today, and so grateful for the governor's leadership and his vision of merging technology and sustainability, his two passions today, because we're going to need a lot of that to actually innovate our way out of some of these large-scale challenges. So thank you very much for having me here today. And I think what I'm going to ask to do is just talk a little bit more in detail about the Aloha Plus Challenge framework, the value of public-private partnerships and why there's such a diversity of folks around this room, and also the global relevance of what you are all going to be undertaking in the next couple of weeks. But let me just start out by saying, how many of you read or were aware of that recent climate change report that came out about last week? Show of hands. It looks like we're not on the right pathway that we need to be to avoid some of these most concerning impacts of climate change: sea level rise, Arctic ice melt, drought, and wildfire. The report says it's going to require unprecedented changes in all aspects of society and costing $2.4 trillion a year worldwide. That's more than the current Mega Million lottery, if you've checked your news recently. But the report also says that it's going to, there's something we can do about it, and if we work together right now, here, today. The report says we need to engage all aspects of civil society, public sector, private sector, through these partnerships. It also points to the need to engage Indigenous wisdom and knowledge in Indigenous communities, which is a huge opportunity, particularly here in Hawaii with our host culture and local communities. It calls for international cooperation, but it also talks about the fact that we have a framework and we have a plan, and that's the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Another show of hands, how many people are aware of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals? No, but that's very impressive. 17 goals that cut across economic, social, environmental priorities. This actually links the solutions to climate change and global warming to development goals, including poverty eradication and reducing inequalities in climate action. So right here, we have a local framework for action through the Aloha Plus Challenge. And the governor's Sustainable Hawaii Initiative is working to accelerate solutions to that effort. When we look at the Aloha Plus Challenge, it actually is looking at energy, waste, smart sustainable communities, natural resource management, and Hawaii has demonstrated incredible leadership. It's the 100% clean energy goal that the governor mentioned, the commitment, the first state legally to sign on to the Paris Commitment. It's our commitment to double local food production. The energy goal, the Paris climate change goals, this is a unified approach that Hawaii has taken. And so the Aloha Plus Challenge framework there on the left is actually that framework that does cut across these different goals. So this year's HACC is focused around sustainability, and these innovations will actually look across these different goals. Right next to it, you see the Aloha Plus Challenge goals. What's interesting is that a group of stakeholders in Hawaii from different sectors came up with the Aloha Plus Challenge prior to the UN agreeing to the Sustainable Development Goals. So we chose our colors first. Maybe we should put a copyright on that. But the reason why this is significant is because we have a local and culturally appropriate approach based on the collaboration that I'll talk about in just a minute. And I realize I don't actually have control over the slides, or maybe I do. I'll just go to the next slide. Okay. So I really want to emphasize this point. Beth made this earlier. Sustainable development is really a three-legged stool. There are these three critical areas: economy, society, and the environment. And sometimes it's about trade-offs, but you can't have gains in one without actually considering the other. So as you think about Coders Your Solutions, you may be focusing what you think is on a particular issue or challenge, but we need economic, social, environmental, this collaboration between the two. And I would say that islands, even though we're the most vulnerable to these impacts of climate change that I mentioned, we're also laboratories for innovation. So sustainability in Hawaii builds on 1,000 years of sustainability practices. We look at the Ahupua'a system, which is actually taking these various things into account. So I would say Hawaii is actually well placed, and you in this room, to actually innovate around the solutions, that we have actually a history of looking at this integrated approach. If I go to the next slide, how do you do this? What makes this possible? And again, I'm looking at the diversity of folks around the room representing private sector, civil society, state government. We work with our counties. This is a snapshot of the Hawaii Green Growth Partnership. Hawaii Green Growth is a public-private partnership. It's a network-based organization. We work together because we know that the solutions that we need are going to require all hands on deck. It's going to require everybody's knowledge and everybody's experience and background working together. So you might see some of your organizations on there, but part of what I'm going to do is invite you all to be joining this partnership by the end of today if you're not already, because some of the things that you're going to be developing today are going to be necessary in order to achieve it. So when you have this group, what does this group do together? We go to the next slide. This is the dashboard that Governor Ige spoke about. What the folks did who created Hawaii Green Growth is they came up together with these 6 statewide sustainability goals that actually have unprecedented political coherence, agreed by the governor, the 4 county mayors, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, state legislature. It's really very unprecedented for a state to have that kind of coherence. And what the group did by launching these 6 goals is then set about the process of actually figuring out what we measure. So you know the saying, we measure what matters. So engaging 500 stakeholders over 2 years, we actually went about determining what matters to people and what matters to communities. And these are the co-developed metrics and indicators that you see here tracked on the dashboard. What's also remarkable is that this dashboard, currently tracking progress on these political commitments, is on the state.gov website. So I don't think the governor is shying away or any other elected official from actually determining how are we doing on our goals. And the innovations that you'll come out today will further show how we're driving impact, because sometimes we don't have the data or the ability to actually track as accurately as we want. So let's take a deeper dive just quickly. The next slide, this is just a snapshot of green workforce and education. And the reason why I thought to pull this out, and I do encourage you to explore the dashboard as you work on your different solutions. Hawaii is showing real leadership and innovation. So it looks like innovation is on the leading edge of the growing industries in Hawaii. That's what UHERO's data is tracking on the bottom right. So that just shows you, if you want to understand a little bit what's happening in Hawaii's economy, click on the dashboard. Now, how does this relate to all of you? Let's take a look here. We put this slide together, and I'm going to actually deconstruct it in just a moment. But these are some of the ideas that actually come forward from our public sector partners. And I should say, as a former public servant, and I can say this really, you're usually working too hard and you're underpaid, and you have a budget that's small and is shrinking. So they need help. So I know that you guys are flying in to help them, but this type of innovation, this type of partnership is really critically important. But if you see, where is your solution fitting into this broader scheme of things? Even though we might have said your particular innovation would relate to one of these goals, I would just forget you even saw this, because it might relate to 2 or 3 of the goals. In fact, it probably relates to all of them. And you shouldn't be innovating for that specific goal in mind, but just focusing on the impact that you guys would like to have. But I'm going to talk a little bit about local global. You see that rolling up? Let's go to the next slide here. Public-private partnerships. I'm sure you recognize some of the individuals here, the real leaders that are working every day to raise awareness about what Hawaii is doing, some of the challenges, and truly inspirational, because in order to change behavior, we're going to have to change hearts and minds. And when we change behavior, that's actually going to get us on the right track for sustainability. This is a snapshot of some of the local global partnerships and the leaders, island leaders in particular, that have come together, saying this is how they're going to actually take on some of these big challenges. And if you go to the next slide here, this is actually really cool. So recognizing this collaboration and the partnership that has been working to develop over the years, the Aloha Plus Challenge. 3 weeks ago at the United Nations General Assembly, where world leaders gather every year to think about the most pressing challenges, Hawaii was invited by the United Nations Secretary General's office to become a hub for sustainable solutions. And it's on the collective effort and the collective work that folks have been doing together over the many, many years. And what does this actually mean for us here in this room? This means that the UN has actually come to Hawaii for help, because they recognize that if they have any chance at all of achieving those 17 global sustainable development goals, they're going to have to work at the local level. And the rubber hits the road at the local level, right here in this room. So what they're coming to Hawaii for help is how do we identify those local solutions to these global challenges? And so that's the invitation today to all of you to join the Hawaii Green Growth Partnership. Think about how your solutions are going to have that global impact. I think that's my last slide, but let me leave it on there. This is the UN of the Pacific. A colleague said recently, this is really a call for help. And going back to my initial statement, this is really how we're going to innovate our way into a better pathway for Hawaii. So mahalo for allowing me to be part of this process, and good luck with your co-petition that you're about to start. So thank you very much.
Mahalo, Celeste. We appreciate the connection that you have been able to make for our participants between the Aloha Plus dashboard and the challenges that they are going to be able to undertake today. And we hope that each of you will become a community partner through the HACC for this. Additionally, one difference this year is that the Agathon has joined forces with us. Sorry, given cues to the booth up there too. So the Agathon was initially developed last year by the Hawaii Department of Agriculture in partnership with the Hawaii Technology Development Corporation. And they really decided to come on board with us because of the fact that the Agathon really aligns with the food production and consumption vertical goal for the Aloha Plus Challenge dashboard. So joining these two events together offers greater impact, visibility, and brings the agricultural challenges to the forefront. To talk a little bit more about this, I'd like to bring up the chair of the Department of Agriculture, Scott Enright, and he can elaborate more on agriculture and how it fits well into the sustainability models.
Thank you. Good morning, aloha. It's impressive looking out at young faces because that's what agriculture is going to need going forward. Historically in this state, our Department of Education has taught agriculture as a vocational pursuit. If you weren't intelligent enough to be on a track to go to college level courses, they would track you into ag. That's not the agriculture we're going to have in the 21st century. This past month, I've been working with an operator that wants to come into the state to grow vegetables for Costco, doing impressive work in California and Mexico. He's a former NASA engineer. He never took any agricultural courses. Doing everything inside. It's almost all automated with robotics. It's all controlled. That's the agriculture of the future. A lot of it's going to be done indoors. This is all STEM and all data driven. And that's why we need you to come up with solutions for our local agricultural needs. USDA and FDA have promulgated rules. FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Act, it's the first time since the 1930s that the federal government has taken up food safety. And they've put out several rules, and they're going to be game changers for agriculture. Every Aggie that's out there will be walking around with a tablet and will be inputting data on their production, how they're doing it and when they're doing it. They need to be able to, for the 3 years worth of records, they need to be able to trace back and show where a product came from, where a cantaloupe came from, what field, what day, what time of day. That all needs to be available and to be audited. This is the future. This is something most Aggies in this state don't have a clue about doing, but we need to come up with the apps, be able to trace that. We need to be able to help them work with that data set. So this is the future of ag. It's true with pesticides too, because those same audits that are going to be done for food safety will be done for pesticides. We need to demonstrate how they're being used, that they're being used properly, and that all needs to be recorded and downloaded and worked with by the Aggies and by the Department of Agriculture. So it's a brave new world for agriculture, and that's globally and in Hawaii. That's the way forward, and we need your help, and that's why I'm really enthused to look out and see so many young faces, because that's what's going to take. The average Aggie in the country and here in Hawaii looks like me. That's dangerous. So I need them to look like you. Potentially, you are going to help us with the solutions that help our governor double local food production. I thank you all for being here. I applaud your work, and we'll be looking to see what the results are in a couple of weeks. Thank you all. Best of luck.
Hello, Scott. We appreciate the Department of Agriculture also being a terabyte level sponsor for today. So now it is time for you to learn more about the challenges we pose to you to try and innovate and develop solutions for. You're going to hear about 7 different challenges that are connected to state government and nonprofit organizations, the Aloha Plus dashboard, and the community. In addition to those 7 defined challenges, we also offer an open challenge or an open category. If you see or know of a challenge that you are facing as a community member, and you're able to obtain the data, such as from the data.hawaii.gov website, and it ties into the Aloha Plus dashboard, then we welcome you to submit an open, a innovation for the open challenge. The first challenge that we have today is going to be presented by Todd Lowe of the Department of Agriculture, and it is on food safety and certification. Ah, there you are.
My name is Todd Lowe. I work for the Department of Agriculture here in the state of Hawaii. I work for Chair Enright, who you just met. And he's correct. We're seeing a wave of technology moving toward agriculture. And it deals with all levels. It deals with the structures that the farmers are growing in. It deals with how they're growing it, and all that needs of reporting that everything has to happen so that the public understands it's safe food and the farmers can be certified. Not yet. Okay. So what he mentioned was amongst all of these challenges, pesticide use is a huge issue for everyone, because for the farmer, especially in Hawaii or tropical climates where the insect pressure is relentless, we need to beat back the insects. We have weed control, and so pesticides are used by farmers for their operations, and it depends on where you all sit, whether you support pesticide use or not, but it's a reality for commercial agriculture. So when we were thinking about the challenge, we wanted to drive down into something that's contained. Agriculture is huge. There's lots of places you can innovate, but we know this is a burning need for the farmers. And a lot of you, because this is really an ag issue, you guys may or may not know about it, but definitely there are customers out there that would be looking to adopt the solution if you guys could come up with one. So first of all, farmers need a tool to identify the plant or insect issue that they're dealing with. And I'll just go through them and then we can go down into each one. They need to select the proper pesticide. They need to calculate the proper dosage for the required area. And then they need to document that application for its GAP, Good Agriculture Practices, Food Safety Modernization Act that Scott just mentioned, certification. So when you're a farmer, you're faced, a lot of the farmers are elderly, so they know what's going on. They can anticipate the seasons and they can anticipate the insect pressures that are coming through. But for other people, we want to standardize this so that you're able to see what's going on and know what to do about it. So that means you need to select the proper pesticide that you're going to use. And pesticides can be insecticides or weed control. Then they're going to have to calculate the proper dosage. You think this is easy? Have you ever looked at looking at an pesticide bottle that you buy at Home Depot or whatever? You're going to figure out how to relate that dosage to whatever you're doing in the area that you're covering. That's not trivial. You need to be able to, because if you use too much, you have a problem. If you use too little, nothing's going to happen. Right? Then you need to document the use. A lot of these people, in the room, they're technology oriented. A lot of our farmers are not. You're out in the field, it's dusty, you're in a 100-acre farm, you're having to deal with issues out there. How are you going to take all of this information that you need to do and apply it to what you're doing and then bring it back so that you can show that you did the right thing? So that's the whole basis of this challenge. Each one of these things could be a challenge unto itself, but we're just kind of throwing it together for a platform. And you say, okay, well, why if the Department of Ag knows about this, why don't we just pay somebody to do it? Well, first of all, we don't want to own it because then it just is a specific thing for Hawaii. This is actually a global issue. I've not seen a platform out there that handles these issues on a global level. For instance, we found a platform in India, and it's called HACC, and if you look it up, it's out there, that has 1 million farmers under it. And it's a platform they're using to tie their extension agents to the farmers in their region. They don't have a pesticide area yet. So if you want to look at something that could be monetized, or that's good, it's for Hawaii, but it could be spread all over, this might be one of the vehicles that you guys kind of look at. But anyway, okay. So pesticide use is important, not only for the farmer, but also the public. Last year, a pesticide bill was passed by the legislature and the governor signed it. It's an act. So if you look at it, it says restricted use pesticides, they have to be reported on, and it prohibits the use of pesticides within 100 feet of a school. So this is the beginning of the public starting to push back to say, okay, we know that pesticides are being used. We want it to be used safely, and I'm sure there's more bills coming out this year that is going to push even further into agriculture. What the ag side wants to do is to show that we're using it properly and it's a safe usage. But anyway, so there's two parts of this, and there's a link on there that you can get to. From the ag side, and there's three things that we really have to work on. One of it is the plant health, because that's the economic driver of our operations, right? That we're not for fun, we're doing this for commercial business, and we need to sell the product. So it has to be of consistent quality. And that's the whole driver of agriculture. You don't want, when you go to the store, you want to have that whatever you're buying to be of quality that you're willing to eat. And it doesn't want to look funny unless it's an heirloom tomato or something. But they're supposed to look funny. But regularly, you want things that are standardized, right? Okay, also for your workers, you want to do it for their worker safety. And it really is in access to markets now. Places like Costco are leading the nation in standards for the food that they're selling. It's even higher than the federal standards. So as a grower, you're faced with these really high standards that your food has to pass before it can be sold, especially if you want to access certain markets. So that's an issue. Okay, so that being said, pesticide use is administered all over the place, mostly on the Fed level. USDA is involved, EPA is involved, FDA is involved, and at the state level, the Department of Ag supports the certification of farmers. Okay, so USDA typically is the institution or organization that supports farmers across the nation at the Fed level. And they have a thing called good agriculture practices. These are general ideas that if you follow, that you're pretty much going to be doing things that are properly and safe, and that would lead you toward getting food safety certification. Again, this is deep into the agriculture world, but if you wanted to do something with this act, this is part of the background that you guys are going to have to get a hold of. Oh, and they have GAP, and then they also have good handling practices. But that makes sense, right? After you harvest it, you got to handle it properly on its way downstream to the consumer. Okay, EPA. They're really concerned about how much pesticides are used, and because it affects the environment and runoff and all those other issues. So, and they're also wanting to make sure the workers are safe. So they have a thing called Agriculture Worker Protection Standard, which sets when pesticides should be used and how long before your workers have to stay out before they can get back into the fields. Anyway, all this information is out there, but this is more background in the pesticide world. And the big beast that's out there for us is from the FDA. So you have to understand the difference. USDA is really a farmer-based group. The FDA is really for the consumers. And they are starting to dictate, and this gets back to our Costco's and things like that. It's the Food Safety Modernization Act, and they are the ones that are looking at is food safe. So we know that we have to use pesticides for our operations, but we want to use it safely so that all you consumers want to ensure that the food is safe and you won't be harmed if you eat it. And this is a moving target. So if you dive deep into the Food Safety Modernization Act, it's still being worked on as we go. Oops. Okay, so this is the earlier version of my slides, but I got a couple extra. And I have this information if you wanted to talk to me about it. Department of Agriculture actually certifies farmers for pesticide use. We are at King Street, and if you're a farmer and you have employees that want to apply pesticides, you have to come to us, take the test, and then you're cleared for use. If you're using restricted use pesticides, they won't be sold to people without this certification. So there's some level of control out there, right? And UHCTAR is also involved because they provide study packets that you can get information so you can pass your test. So anyway, that's kind of what we have for the Ag Challenge. It's a pretty big issue, I think. There's lots of places that you could dig in. There's GIS opportunities. There's working with the pesticide companies to find out matching incidents that are happening and what's the possible solution. And that's pretty deep because all sorts of stuff's happening out there. There's the gathering of data, and you could dig into each piece or the whole thing. I think it's an opportunity to put Hawaii on the map to show that we can innovate in this area, because again, nobody's out there doing this. And every farmer needs this, not only in Hawaii. This is a global issue, definitely in the US, because they deal with the food safety stuff. But everybody's going to start to work in this area. Do we take questions, or that's okay? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Todd. We appreciate you presenting the challenge of trying to make our food safer, making sure that pesticides are applied properly with the correct permits, and trying to figure out how to help our farmers do it better and faster and safer. So our next challenge is from the Department of Education. And you may think, how is education related into the Aloha Plus dashboard? How is education related into sustainability? Well, where do we first start learning about sustainability? It is from our teachers in grade schools, middle schools, and high schoolers. And those teachers need resources and the ability to collaborate and innovate themselves. And that then brings an equitable access to education. So I would like to introduce Hillary Apana-McKee with Miki Kamimura on the computer to help us out. And she will be presenting the Department of Education Challenge.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My colleague told me I should try to take a selfie up here and get the, the wide angle shot, but I don't know how to do selfies very well, so sorry. She's gonna have to do it for me. We are from the Hawaii Department of Education. We take care of learning and technology across the state for all schools, and we believe in equitable access to education. As an island state, we find that costs go up for teachers trying to collaborate across the islands, and they don't have the resources they need for the students for Hawaii. Okay. So we have an introductory video if you haven't gotten to see our challenge yet. Imagine this. The voiceover went up. Technical difficulty. Let me see if I can get it on my phone.
Yeah, we're still looking at the handheld mic.
Oh, handheld mic. Oh, so maybe now's a good time for me to take a selfie then. Practice my selfie skills. Okay. We'll take it from this side of the room. And this side of the room. I'll get myself up. No selfie. Should do a panoramic now since we have time.
Check.
Students are globally competitive and engaged in classroom. And teachers have access to unlimited curricular resources. The United States spends an average of $18 billion on teacher professional development annually. As an island state, equity and access to training and networking is costly, and it's not just a car or bus ride away. Nationwide, 94% of teachers pay for classroom resources out of pocket. Based on the nationwide average, 10,000 Hawaii teachers would spend nearly $4 to $6 million of their own money to purchase resources that are used in the classroom. We are seeking long-term and dynamic digital solutions to support teacher training and networking through engaging but simple interfaces with social media characteristics that foster an addiction to collaborative educator resources and sharing. Your challenge is to create digital tools to allow limitless access to engaging student resources and instructional strategies that go beyond the four walls of the classroom, resulting in student engagement and skill sets to help Hawaii students meet the demands of college and career pathways.
So we believe that these tools will help our teachers get more access to resources, and we brainstormed as a group in April, May. We were challenged with developing a teacher collaboration tool that's virtual. And we came up with, through a design thinking process, some prototypes that we have in mind, but we want you to go beyond what we present in this short video clip. Our prototype components, we wanted teacher match. Match teachers based on their profile, connect with like-minded teachers, and communicating and collaborating with others. And make it social media-like. Community partners, video segments highlighting community partner sites. Coaching opportunities, request system for virtual coaching, request system for face-to-face coaching and mentoring. A resource hub that's searchable with a rating system and commenting system. Innovative space that allows meetings and events to be posted. Search engine to find spaces to collaborate and innovate. Action research, publishing research, requesting to be a part of a research project, or submitting ideas for a research project. Virtual lesson observations, videotaping of lessons, providing feedback, something like Facebook Live. Publishing lessons to a resource hub. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the design we were thinking of. We did want to make it easy because We want teachers to use it. We also wanted to have something that they actually want to use. So social media like and addictive, basically. Engaging, addictive, simple, and social media like. So that's our challenge to you, and we thank you for trying to accept our challenge or accepting our challenge. We challenge you to
Thank you, Hillary and Nikki, and thank you all for bearing with us with our technology challenges. As you know, nothing ever quite goes as you had planned. So now that we have education, you may want to think about like, how can teachers find each other? How can the teachers find spaces to work in? How can they find the resources? They have some development and pieces already there, and now it's taking those and making it a bigger, almost a social media platform, possibly. Who knows? What can you come up with? Our next presentation is going to be by Matt Keir from the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. So Matt actually came to us with a number of projects, and the second project that he's somewhat involved in is going to be presented next. And we felt it was a good match but we liked both his projects, so we wanted both. So the first one, if you want to come up, Matt, is going to be on rare plant identification, or I'm sorry, rare plant reporting and tracking.
Well, good morning. My name is Matthew Keir, and I'm a botanist with the Department of Land and Natural Resources in the Division of Forestry and Wildlife. I want to start off by asking you all to just take a look outside behind me, and what do you all see there, right? Most people would see just a curtain of green, right? So we often don't see individual plants in the environment around us. And this sort of plant blindness leads us to not really understand or value the role of individual species in our ecosystem and what they do for us. We miss out on knowing that Hawaii has one of the most unique, valuable, and interesting native floras in the entire world. As one of the most isolated land masses on the globe, plants that got here have evolved to our native conditions and have changed, and they're not found anywhere else in the world. So there's about 10,000 plants if you walk around in the state, and less than 10%, about 1,380 of them are native. So most of the plants all plants I saw here walking from my car this morning, they're not native, they're not from here. And this is one of the challenges we have to managing our natural resources, is overcoming this plant blindness and raising public awareness. Another fact that maybe some of you know about Hawaii is that sometimes we're known as the endangered species capital of the world. Because we are so isolated and the plants here are so unique, they're not found anywhere else in the world, they're also threatened by all the recent invasive species and the impacts those have had on our flora. So we have more endangered species in Hawaii than any other state. We have more endangered plants on the list than any other state. Nearly half of the endangered plants in our country are Hawaiian plants. And this is sort of an outsized burden for a state with less than 1% of the land area of the country. So our division is challenged by managing all of these resources throughout the state. Just to go over what a few of these are and give you a little bit more background, there are over 250 plant species in Hawaii with less than 50 individuals left. Many with just one left, right? But this is one of them here. It grows in the Ko'olau Mountains and nowhere else in the world. So there are some here in Manoa and some in Wailupe and some of the adjacent valleys, and then that's it. There are also, sorry, thanks for the assistance there. There are also about 22 plants that don't exist in the wild anymore. They're extinct in the wild. So they only exist in cultivation at various facilities across the state. And so these people work to maintain these plants and keep them in cultivation and replicate them and get them back out to a place where they can resume their role within the native ecosystem. Slide. We also have a lot of examples of plants that are relatively common, but still really imperiled. So many of us have heard of rapid ohia death. It's a new, it's a term for a couple of new forest diseases that have come into the state, and they're quickly decimating thousands of acres on the Big Island. And now it's been found in Kauai, and it's kind of poses this really looming threat of coming across them and really undermining the function of our forests across the state. One of the challenges the division has is to try to manage all of these resources across what is basically the widest state in the country, with a whole bunch of different islands, and most of the plants are unique to each individual island. So communication across this expanse is really a challenge and a hurdle for us. So this is what this is known, and so now this endangerment is known, and there are a whole bunch of different agencies, private individuals, nonprofit organizations that all do this type of conservation work. So keeping them all going and understanding who's working on what often falls to the permits that they're required to get from our division for working with endangered species. This is an example of a whole bunch of the different agencies that we work with and we issue permits to on an annual basis. So what we want to do is be able to standardize and share our data. So we have some ideas about databases that are in use and some capacity for people to use ArcGIS and other products out there to document what they're doing and report it in on that. So we work with the federal government and large botanic gardens, but we also work with dozens of private landowners who really don't have access to that type of software and those kind of advanced systems to record what they're doing and then pass it along to us in a standardized way. So I'm really glad to see the connection with the Aloha Plus dashboard, because that's where we want to feed our results, right? We want to show the public progress on where we're going, how we're meeting these goals, but more importantly, where are the gaps that we're leaving behind? And unless we collect standardized data in a regular way, we're going to miss out on all of that stuff. So with hundreds of species across all of these different islands, our problem is standardizing and reporting the data in a streamlined way. We're starting to address this slowly but surely. The state has entered into a contract to develop an application, online application for endangered species permitting. So this is done through the INFORS system, and people will go online, they get an account, they register. It's not a Hawaii.gov system account, it's a separate account. And then they just tell us some basic information. This is where I want to work. These are the plants I want to work with. This is what I want to do with it. And then we route, a PDF version of this application around. It goes out to all of our staff for review. And then we decide to accept it or, have some conditions added to it. And then we okay the permit and it goes out. We don't have any way to turn it around and receive the information that we're requiring back to us. So we want to know things like, how many populations of plants did you work with? How many plants were there total? These are things that need to go straight into the dashboard so that we understand how we're doing and we have these measurable metrics. Are there seedlings there? Are there young plants? What is the population structure? It'll give us some idea of how to project into the future how these plants might be good. If they got no keiki, then there's red flags going off, right? These aren't going to be here for very much longer. And one of the main things we do is we fence them, we protect them from invasive species like rats and weeds and slugs and ants and all those other things. We know for the most part what our division does, but we have no way to collect all this information from dozens of private individuals that are doing this as hobbyists or as kind of paid grant nonprofits that are working on a small scale across the state. So we're missing out on all of this information. We have a lot of systems in place to describe where this work is going. We've split up the entire state into these polygons, so this is available for download. And then that's an example here of where 2 plants of a gardenia might be located on the island of Molokai. So if somebody's working on these plants, we want to know where they are, what species they're working with, how many plants they did, what they did to them, where they planted them, and how they're protecting them. Then we can incorporate that into our standard reporting that goes out to Aloha Plus and up to our federal partners and all these other operators across the state. We maintain a access-based database at the moment, and we're moving towards a new version of it that's going to be online and cloud-based and written in SQL language so that we can have multi-tenant, we can get into this from across the state, and we want to be able to prepare ourselves by streamlining the reporting data that's going to be able to be integrated into this database, and we can report kind of in real time what we're seeing out there in the landscape. Just for an example, we don't know how many mature plants there are of all of these really, really rare native species. For several of them, what the data we have is from large agencies, federal agencies, state agencies, large botanic gardens. But we don't know, for example, these. There's a couple of extinct in the wild. How do we get that information out to people who might be surveying? How do we fill in the gaps here? And the answer is hopefully in this room. We've messed around with a few different options for taking data in the field. This is an example I'm interested in. It's open source software that is supported and maintained by the Harvard Institute for Humanities Institute, I believe, at Harvard. It's supported by a whole bunch of different UN and human rights groups to go take data out in the field about what might be happening on site. Who needs access to fresh water? Who needs access to secure food? Those types of things. We've taken that open source software and we've used it for taking data in the field. So when we're collecting ohia seeds, we can use this type of format and this system, but it's got a cap. We're capped at 10,000 forms, period, across the state. So once we reach that, we're going to use this tool, which allows our managers to kind of custom build these field forms and incorporate photos, a GPS unit right onto a mobile device that can then just be automatically linked and uploaded when we get back to the office. This is the type of system that we would like to see here. Open source, free, available for different users of different experience levels to be able to create the forms they need and really just to do it in a standardized way that when we see the results, we'll be able to easily incorporate them into our data. I have some examples of the data that's been coming in. What you're seeing above is a standard Excel spreadsheet that they use to report work being done with invertebrates. So I'm a botanist, so I want to keep talking about plants, but the scale of this is beyond what we do every day. We report on all of our native insect populations, mammalian butterflies, and we report on access into our natural area reserve systems. We report on endangered species work and progress, period. So it's a little bit larger than just what my area is. But thanks very much. I look forward to learning about all the opportunities. Thanks for your help.
All All right, thank you very much, Matt. We appreciate it. You're all ready to deep dive into rare plants, trying to figure out where they are, how to map them, how to share that information. The next is how to identify plants. So this is a combination between Kupu, which is a nonprofit organization that does environmental and sustainable workforce development, and the DLNR with Matt, in trying to find a way, not just for the workforce to be able to identify plants when they go out on their hikes, but when the public can identify plants as well. So I'll let Nate here explain a little bit more.
Aloha mai kako, everyone. Yeah, my name's Nate. I'm with an organization called Kupu. And annually, what we do is we engage young adults, not much unlike yourselves, in pursuing conservation and sustainability work. We try to provide them different types of internships, summer programs, whatnot, so they can get out into the field. But what we're going to talk about today is providing tools to not only our workforce, but other public users on a way to get out when they are out in the field, a way to identify plants. How many here have heard the story about a naupaka plant or know a naupaka plant? I've seen one before. Great. So the naupaka plant has a story. There's several different stories, but the common one is about a story about star-crossed lovers. So there was a Mauka princess and a commoner fisherman that fell in love. And when they found out that they couldn't get married to each other, the princess took the flower out of her hair, tore it in half, gave one half to the fisherman. He returned to the shore. She returned up Mauka. They both planted their halves, and out of the ground, the naupaka flower grew. So there's one that grows in Mauka and one that grows in Makai. And the theory is that when you put the two flowers together, they form one flower. So again, stories about plants, that's pretty common here. The picture you have here is a dwarf naupaka. I was able to actually snap this picture myself. It's an endangered species, federally protected. I think there are less than 300 individuals out in the wild. I found this one, it was actually in captivity, so this one wasn't in the wild. It was at a nursery on Molokai at Kalaupapa. It's pretty much only found in Maui Nui, so Kalaupapa and Maui. But this is a very rare form of naupaka. There's many other types of naupaka plants, but this is one that was out there. Okay, so and this is where you're going to see the difference between Matt and myself. Matt's a scientist, I'm not. I rounded all my numbers up. He gave you pretty exact numbers, but again, Hawaii's the endangered species capital of the world, about 1,400 native plants in Hawaii, and we've already lost about 130 of them. 90% of that 1,400 it's only found in Hawaii. And about 430 of that are currently endangered or being suggested for protection. So why do we want to ID plants? Well, of course, the title of the project's Rare Plant ID. So one main benefit is if we have the ability to tag plants out in the wild, identify and tag, we can find out where they are. We were able to help dispatch DOFA and other organizations to go out and collect data about new plants that are found. We can find out if they're flowering, if they're germinating, all those other kind of things. We can collect seeds. So there's a lot of benefit to being able to capture where and what kind of plants are occurring out in the field. The other kind of benefits that we feel can help with not just rare plants, but any kind of plant, is that a lot of native plants have a cultural context to them. So there's stories. There's stories about the plants, their uses. Some of them are used for laulau, which is traditional medicine. So there are actual uses. Some of them were used for cordage. So there's a lot of uses with the plant that we can actually not only capture, but the user can also be share that information with the user so that the user can also know what that plant was traditionally used for. And if it isn't endangered, maybe they can use it in a proper way. And then we also want to be able to differentiate what you see in the field from natives from invasives. There are also introduced plants that are non-invasive. So certain plants came with the voyagers on their canoes. So there are non-invasive plants, there are invasive plants. So there's all kinds of different plants. Being able to help users identify and figure out what they're looking at would be very helpful. So the other reason why we are looking at a visual plant database is that I'm in conservation and I have no idea what these plants are. I got the pictures from Matt. He didn't give them titles, so I actually don't know what they are. So this would be a typical user right here of somebody that might be out in the field, might see a flower and not know if it's native, endangered, threatened, if it's invasive. So I'm looking at these kind of images and I don't even know what I'm looking at. So your user is somebody like me who has some knowledge but could use more knowledge. So why Kupu? Again, we employ about 300 young adults every year in the field. As Matt mentioned, the state is one of the widest states. We're workforce constrained in DOFA, in DLNR. There are many partners out there, but because we're able, if we have a tool like this in the field, ready at your fingertips, we can activate our 300 new interns every year that are out in the field, plus the 1,400 other employees that are working for different organizations, non-governmental, nonprofit, as well as citizen scientists and wannabe kind of scientists like me who don't know that much. But we can enable a larger scale of people getting out there collecting data, tagging native protected plants, or being able to know what they're actually looking at and being educated. And these are just some of the pictures. These are the types of places that our interns are going. So you can see that they're covering a wide range of the topography, and they're out there every day. So being able to provide a way for them to capture, to have information ready at their fingertips would be very helpful for a pretty wide workforce. That's it. I want to thank you guys for your time, and hopefully you guys can help us get some information out to our users. Thank you.
Hello, Nate. We appreciate the partnership between our nonprofits and our government agencies as well. Our next challenge is put forth by the University of Hawaii Office of Energy Management. So you look at all of these different buildings around UH and you wonder, how are they tracking what's going on in them? Well, Miles here has some answers, and he needs your help.
Yes, well, hello everybody, can you hear me? Yeah, so here's a problem statement, right? We use a lot of energy. In fact, out of the state of Hawaii, the largest user is the feds, all the bases. The next largest user is the state. And out of the state, the largest user is the university. And out of the university, the largest usage is here at Manoa. We spend over $30 million a year on electricity. Where's it all going? Can we reduce it? Those are the questions. Next slide, please. What we've done in order to track this is we've installed smart meters on a lot of our buildings. So we know how much power comes into the campus, and we know where it's going, and we can actually trend the usage throughout each day. And we're logging this data in 1-minute intervals, and it rolls up to 15-minute intervals, and it sits for a long time. Next slide, please. Sorry, just keep clicking through that. Yeah, so what we've done is we've put all this metering data into this database called Aurora. It was developed by this company called Blue Pillar. And it's basically like a librarian. It just collects data and stores it. I can access the data. I can plot the data. They have some basic plotting tools, but it's just data. It's not information yet. You know what I mean? So what we would like to do is transform this data into information. Maybe we can go. Oh yeah, Aurora. They claim to be the energy Internet of Things. So we're moving in that direction as we transform our knowledge base. Next slide, please. So these meters, so this is a snapshot of the Aurora interface, and these meters, you see all these different metering points. So there's all this, there's not only kW, but there's all how much current being used, the voltage, the voltage are, it's all being logged, and it can be exploited to help us come up with some solutions. Next slide. Yeah, so like I said, 1 minute intervals. We've been collecting for a couple of years now, so we've got quite massive data. And what we'd like to do is sort of exploit this data to help us, come up with some actions, like which projects do we do first? What's the most bang for the buck, so to speak. Next slide, please. Yeah, so again, this is we got data, we need to transform it into information. We can think of like dashboards or, different ways to view this information and to result in actions like a big solar system, which is actually a project that's coming out from some previous analysis that was done years ago. Said that we should do this big solar project on the parking structure, and you guys are going to see construction on that coming up in a couple weeks starting. But that's one example. That data was collected by hand. It was processed by hand. It took a long time. It's been 5 years in the workings, and we're going to break ground, like I said, in a couple of weeks. So it's been a long time. We'd like to be able to speed that process up. Next slide, please. So this is, I don't know. I was talking to Phil, and he's just brilliant, right? And all of you guys are brilliant. The software is what really drives everything. It's invisible, but it's really how everything is possible that we have nowadays. But we came up with some ideas. These aren't necessarily what you should do, but just to get your creative juices going. Just visualizations, analysis tools, ways to look at this, so you can think of in terms of dashboards, or even using a cyber canoe somehow to sort of maybe virtually fly through, or I don't know. I mean, the possibilities are limitless, and kind of using data streams is very fascinating because data is data. Oh, we use this much this year, so what? But we use this much, but we educated this many students. Now it becomes interesting. It becomes something efficiency measure, and that's what we're all about, is efficiency. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's it. So I don't know, I'm kind of like a Iron Man geek, so I like some Iron Man graphics, so I threw it up there in my video like this. But yeah, I would just like to challenge you all to see what you can come up with. We have data, and we have a lot of it, and it's going to be fun. Thank you.
All right, we're making our way through. We've got 5 of the 7 presented down, 2 more left to go. Our next one is by the University of Hawaii Office of Sustainability. We talked through this one quite a bit to try and get just the right thing going for you. And so Jillian Cristobal is going to come up and present that for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jillian Cristobal. I work with the UH Office. I'm actually a nitrogen footprint fellow here at UH Manila. So what we are proposing are nitrogen and carbon footprint data aggregators. But before I get into what that actually is. I don't expect all of you to know what nitrogen and carbon footprints are. So I wanted to give you a brief overview of what this actually entails. So nitrogen and carbon footprints quantify the amount of reactive nitrogen and carbon dioxide released into the environment as a result of an entity's resource consumption. So carbon dioxide, this comes from transportation. You folks are probably more familiar with that than nitrogen. But nitrogen also comes from like fertilizer use and fossil fuels, natural biofuels, processing. So basically, it's also in utilities where we see most of our carbon dioxide. And this can also lead to smog, haze, eutrophication through leaching in the soil. And also, all of these sectors which produce carbon dioxide also overlap with nitrogen. So just wanted to sort of give you the process of what we do here on UH Manoa, simplified in 4 steps. So first is collecting data. So this is based on what boundaries you set up for your institution. This is just an example from the University of Virginia. So this means what we are looking at is food, energy, transportation, fertilizers, and research animals, not just limited to that, but there can be a broader range also. So anything, I'll give you an example. So food production, even though we don't produce it directly here at UH Manoa, we are part of that consumption, which is a result of us creating these greenhouse gases as a result of our entity consumption. So just some raw data sets that usually we have to collect are large Excel spreadsheets, invoices. So this can get pretty tedious and time consuming. So something we would like to have this tool that you folks create is to streamline this process. So second step is inputting this data into SciMap. So SciMap is our sustainability indicator management and analysis platform. This is like an online-based platform where institutions across the nation and nationally and internationally can upload their information about their university or business and calculate exactly how much greenhouse gases are produced as a result of this consumption. So you have various categories such as fertilizer, transportation, fuels, renewable energy, and you also get into more of like the more specifics. You have paper, commuting, also ways we can mitigate this, such as composting, sequestration, and other offsets. So third step is to export these results out of SciMap. So this is usually in large Excel files, not the most appealing to the common user, but very necessary. So other issues with this is that we want to actually communicate these results effectively, not just to our stakeholders, but to staff, to the communities, to show our improvements and steps we are making towards sustainability. So our end product, these 2 figures on the left, is something that you can get out of SciMap. As you see, it's kind of basic, doesn't show too much information. I mean, it's colorful, but we want to get a little more specific so people actually know how much of what are we producing and how we can mitigate that. So on the right are 2 more research-oriented graphs I produced just to be a little more helpful towards information-wise and how we can lessen those impacts. So what we are proposing for the nitrogen and footprint data aggregator is to target our faculty, administration, students, stakeholders, a broad range of audiences like you folks that don't really have a background in nitrogen and carbon footprints, but want to help make steps towards helping UH Manoa, not just this campus, but other campuses achieve their sustainability goals. So the purpose of what we are proposing is to streamline the data collection process, enable consistencies. This will help us set up a system for where stakeholders can participate monthly, annually, something that we can hopefully replicate through other campuses. also centralized data archive so we can keep track of monthly inputs, yearly inputs, so we can track progress that we are making towards our sustainability goals. And I think one of the most important is to effectively communicate results to our audiences, so you folks, so they can see what we're doing, get easily involved. So our desired functions, not limited to this. It's so stakeholders can upload data, so like those raw data sets I was showing you, into this module, and to where we can easily take that, put it into our sign map, calculate our results, our greenhouse gas emissions, and then import those back into SciMap and communicate these results. So what this actually entails, whether it's an app or a platform, that's up to you. Really hope to see folks get creative with it. Also wanted to make really visually appealing, so even the broad community can see what UH Manoa's goals and how we're achieving that. Thank you. And for more information, you folks can click on this link. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jillian. Great job. If you don't know, Jillian is and she is going to be graduating this spring. So anyone looking to hire some sustainability person, we have a good one here in the room. And our last challenge of the day to be presented is the waste audit. So we are trying to have a zero waste event. So what these lovely people are trying to do is do waste audits across UH campus and a number of different places, and hopefully take this broader. But there's no way for them to share their data and do it easily for others. So Nicole Chatterson from the UH Office of Sustainability is going to come up here to present on this challenge.
Hey, good morning. I know I'm standing in the way of you and lunch, so I will keep this interesting and brief. My name is Nicole Chatterson. I'm the Campus as a Living Lab Coordinator with the UH Office of Sustainability. And I'm here today to offer you guys the challenge of helping us track our trash. So why is that something we might want to do? We know most of the savings is in the energy sector. Trash is something we don't really want to touch or think about. Isn't it all going away anyway? This image up here is what's known as the wasteberg. So for every 1 ton of trash we throw away, there's 70 tons of waste created upstream. So if you take, for example, a Starbucks cup, for each Starbucks cup, there are 70 times that amount in waste from the extraction, production, transportation, and use of these items termed trash. So this brings us to the ways in which we manage our waste. Right now in Hawaii and at the university, we manage primarily downstream. So that means we don't think about or address trash until it exists. And we spend lots of money building expensive infrastructure to handle it. So what if we moved upstream? What if instead of accepting an endless flow of waste, we started designing waste out of our systems? The first step in moving to an upstream system is understanding what's in your waste stream. This is a pie chart put together by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And what it's showing us is that 42% of our greenhouse gas footprint is actually attributed to our production and use of things. So I know we typically think about energy and there's energy embedded in there, but what are we using the energy for? And as Celeste mentioned earlier, the UN report on what's ahead if we don't drastically change our greenhouse gas output is that it's not pretty. So at the University of Hawaii, we're working to try and address this global issue locally by getting our trash under control. So we want to know what's in our waste stream so that we can start to work towards some of our commitments to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and put forth more sustainable procurement policies so we're not buying a bunch of junk we need to throw away in the first place. So that brings us to the method for figuring out what's in our waste stream. Students so far at 4 UH campuses have banded together and started auditing our waste stream. Has anybody done a waste audit here before? Okay, a couple brave souls who also got sucked into the UH Manoa waste audit. Okay, so what does an audit entail? It's literally picking through trash and sorting it into categories. And the power of this is the more you categorize and the more granular you get with the data, the more potential interventions you can make. So we have single-use utensils. We have a category for compostable plates. We have all these, we're getting rid of plastic, but now what do we do with all of these compostable plates? Lots of cups. Recyclable paper in the trash can, is that something we can change, create a system for? Lots of paper towels also. This is Navin. Navin was very sad about all the straws we were finding. And at the end of this, despite the fact it seems like kind of dirty, unpleasant work, students are building community. It's a tangible way to get in there and try and solve a problem. So yeah, people are happy doing it, which is surprising. Okay, so the challenge, what's the issue with all of this? In that orange circle there is our very clunky paper audit sheet. And as you can see from Navin and Jillian over here, you can get exhausted during the audit. There's a lot going on. There's volunteers moving in and out throughout an 8-hour period. So at UH Manoa, we did 2 days of waste auditing for 8 hours straight. So you have a lot of people coming in, and the data sheet kind of just gets pushed to the wayside. On top of that, when we do get this paper data sheet, which is probably stained with food waste and crumpled up, we then have to manually input it into an Excel spreadsheet. And then this is where I come in, and I'm kind of the bottleneck for growth here. So I manually, manipulate the data and help figure out different ways we might want to visualize it. And that works for now with 4 campuses doing this. But if we're actually able to scale this and get waste audits twice a year at each of the 10 campuses, this is not a very effective system of creating visuals that can be presented to our decision makers and help create impact. So with that, I guess articulating the challenge that we have for you is, can you help us design a system that's sleek on the front end, that's easy for users to access and input data into during this kind of fast-paced audit? And is there a way that that data can be aggregated and visualized that will allow us to scale up across the university system and then potentially even plug into something like the Aloha Plus Challenge dashboard? And if our sound is working, I'll leave you guys with a brief video of what it's like to be at a waste audit. Maybe. Yes, you have permission. It wouldn't be fitting if we didn't end with another tech challenge. Maybe I can just give it right now. If you request, I might be able to. Okay, I see it.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Lance again, waste audit, but certainly UH sustainability.
I don't know why it's like, okay, I didn't
So you're right.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Hans. We're here at the Waste Audit with Certified UH and UH Sustainability. We're deriving through trash. See what students throw away most.
Right down the street. Wasn't on the way. Only one we had to use in the deck from the rain. Because they use something to wait. Only stuff is on play. Don't let something to wait. It's using water, say this way. Move into the house on our way by a bed. So I'm lying on the side of the road, so I took that one instead.
All right, thank you.
We're working our way through the technology. Okay, so I would like to now ask all of our challenge leaders and our challenge facilitators to step down to the lunchroom. You get first crack to get set up down there. I have a few more things to say to all of you, and then we will move on to lunch. So, let's see. Hopefully, after you've now heard all of the department challenges, the gears are going in your brain of how you might want to try and create solutions. During the upcoming lunch period, we ask that you sit at tables and start having conversations with your potential team members and the challenge leaders from the different departments. This will be your time to ask them questions, basically. You'll also have a period in the afternoon to circle up with the challenge leaders as well as potential team members. And if you notice on people's name tags or your stickers, and hopefully we'll get the name tags down to you downstairs, is that you have different color circles on your name tags or your stickers. And we've asked you to sort of self-identify in terms of, are you a developer, a designer, a discloser, or something different? So a developer is someone who definitely works with code and IT focus. A designer is someone that works with interfaces and graphics. A discloser is someone who works on the communication side or the marketing side. And they might do something totally different that you may not even realize that you need. So talk to your fellow lunchmates and ask them what they do and how they do it and why they chose that color sticker for themselves. Because as you're putting your team together, you are going to want to consider including all different kinds of people on your team. Basically, I have written the script to thank our sponsors about 3 different times, and I'm finally the person that's thanking our sponsors. So yes, we appreciate our sponsors for being here, for being part of this. The HACC would not exist without our sponsorship. They are vital to everything and making this event happen. I'd like to thank our Terabyte sponsors, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Department of Agriculture, Kaiser Permanente, and Transform Hawaii Government. And our Gigabyte sponsors are Data House, Salesforce, Carasoft, and Unisys. Hopefully you'll get a chance to talk to them today during lunchtime. If you finished early, you can come up and talk to them for a while during our transition, as well as they'll be around during the afternoon session as well. I'd also like to recognize the presenting partners for this event, the State of Hawaii Office of Enterprise Technology Services, Hawaii Pacific University, Hawaii Technology Development Corporation, and the Agathon. This series has been planned, brainstormed, and contributed to by an amazing community and set of partners, many of whom just walked out of the room, unfortunately. But thank you to them, and please thank them and thank our sponsors when you see them. Our community groups included Deadly, Hawaii Green Growth, PCAT, Fulton Ventures, Accelerate HI. Our individuals are Talia Abraham, who's helping me with the technology over here, Thelma, Elaine, and Sheila. I can't pronounce Sheila's last name, but Thelma and Sheila, if there are high school students out there, Thelma and Sheila are your connection for this event. For the high schoolers, they're here to specifically help you navigate through the series of events and the different projects. So Thelma and Sheila are your go-tos for the high schoolers. Brooke Carroll and Stuart Crawford, both from ECU, Jasper Green from PCAT, Chelsea Harder from Hawaii Green Grove, Amir from PCAT, Mondi Jamshidi, who's been helping coordinate today's events. Philip Johnson, who is with UH, he is a technology wizard, and you'll be hearing from him this afternoon. He is a professor that has been really helping to keep me in line here with doing things. Caroline Julian Freitas, who's our communications person, media. She's helping you. Hopefully we'll see this on the KITV news tonight. Ed Souza, professor from UH, Jennifer Silva, and Dennis UCD from ETS as well. So a big thanks to all of our volunteers today that have helped with registration, setup, cleanup, and all of those other little tasks that are going to be happening. Please thank me and please. Now, as we get ready for lunch, I'd like to remind you that we are trying for a zero waste event today. We appreciate you bringing your water bottles, you can help us by disposing of any waste responsibly at our zero waste stations. You'll see different types of bins for recycling and food waste bins that are labeled. Shout out to Yo Garden Waimanalo for generously taking our veggie scraps and paper plates. Mondi Jamshidi is going to be doing our bokashi composting of the meat and dairy, so be sure to separate those. Mahalo to her for dealing with that one. Thank you to our community partners who are going to take our recyclables and paper. The UH Office of Sustainability has been awesome in providing us with bins for all of our sorting. And Jennifer Milholland for all of our different signage. Our goal today is to divert 90% or more of our waste from the landfill. So mahalo for your kukua in this regard. Now that we've all been waiting for, well, FT. And then presentation. So we encourage a variety of media to be used between videos, PowerPoint, Techie, drama, whatever you want to do up here. Let's see it work and let's see you present it in some way, shape, or form that's well executed, engaging, and within your time limit. Question. Hopefully that's pretty clear.
How many points on the other categories?
All of the other categories are 10 points. Okay.
What size team?
Teams can be any size you need them to be to make your project work. So it could be a 1-person team or it could be a 10-person team. All right, so what is due when? All right, we require the teams to be somewhat formed and at least have a team leader by Wednesday, October 24th at 11:59 p.m. So to do that, you can form your teams on DevPost, and then if you can email, the team leader can email me and tell me who the team is and what's the team's name. And that's emailed at HACC@hawaii.gov. The team does not have to be finalized by that date. You can still be adding and shifting and moving different team members as you need. But you at least have to have a team formed and a team leader identified. The code freeze is Wednesday, November 7th at 11:45 p.m. So when I went in to put it into DevPost only gives me 15-minute increments. So 11:45 p.m. And that is due on GitHub. What will happen on Thursday and Friday is we have technical review crews that will review your code to make sure it is working. Demo and judging day. If you make it through the technical review, you will be invited, likely, to demo and judging day. And that is on Saturday, November 10th. You have to have at least one team member present for that presentation. So hopefully this answers most of your pressing questions about the details and issues. We'll have a little bit more on the tools for you to use in just a little bit. But now that I've reviewed most of that, I'd like to bring up Miller Abel from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to explain a little bit of why they are our sponsor and how the Gates Foundation is really looking at models of community involvement and sustainability and how Hawaii could possibly become a scalable model.
Aloha. So, yes, why the Gates Foundation interested in that? Well, a couple of reasons. One, super selfish. I run a program at the Gates Foundation, open source for payment switching systems for sub-Saharan Africa. And we're looking to put together a hackathon, and this one worked really well last year. We really liked what we saw and how that works, so I want to take some of that back. But why does it matter more to this thing that you just mentioned, the community? Really how community can really come together to support some of these really important goals. The SDGs themselves individually are important, and you could build programs around an individual goal and really focus on that tightly. But what we're finding is that a lot of the work that we do is focused on individual work that we find important and that we're pursuing, but that the evidence shows it actually impacts on multiple of the SDGs. And I think you heard Celeste say this morning on her slide, where she showed that the lines between the individual programs of the SDGs, between Hawaii and the overall global SDGs, and thinking about the Department of Agriculture and some of the other challengers here. And she was cautioning, don't think about you have to find a particular Hawaii goal or an SDG and focus on that. Focus on the thing you're trying to accomplished, and then look back later and say, what impact did that have on Hawaii goals? And of course, how do those Hawaii goals roll up to the global goals? And as an example of that, we took our financial services for the poor program, which focuses on financial inclusion. And we measured some of the things that have occurred over the last decade or so in this space to see what SDGs were actually influenced by digital financial inclusion. And there are a few things. One in particular that I want to cite, because I think it's really at the center of the stuff we're doing in Kenya. On the #1 SDG goal, the no poverty goal, in Kenya, the spread of mobile money lifted roughly 1 million people out of extreme poverty between 2008 and 2014. That's 6 years. And the use of digital financial services on mobile phones in Kenya caused that to occur. That's equivalent of 2% of the population of Kenya in 6 years. That wasn't the specific reason why mobile money was deployed in that country. It was a mix of private, commercial reasons, developmental reasons. NGOs were involved. Government was largely saying, go ahead, we're not sure what to do with this, but let the mobile money people see how this thing works out. So it wasn't that they set out to solve that particular problem, but they ended up causing that curve. And there are a couple of other effects like that. Over that same period of time, 2008 was when mobile money, which is your simple mobile phone, has a store value account, ability to pay. We don't pay with our phones now, we're thinking, oh yeah, it's ours. Well, actually, it was a really new concept in 2008. We didn't have it. They had it in Africa, we didn't have it yet. But between that point, so around 2008, it was taking off. There were 14 million mobile money accounts worldwide. In 2014, the number of businesses used roughly 700 million accounts. So it's taken off, obviously, and that kind of change is really important. And when we look at that through that study that I mentioned, we found that having a mobile phone was coincident in rising out of poverty. And if you rose out of poverty, you probably had a phone. Those things went together. But we found that having access to a financial services account was causative. So if you say it's a financial services account that I access with my phone, that's an accelerator, and it's probably something that we have to look strongly together, look at those two things together. I've been quoting this as a simple one-page thing. We've got a stack of them at the back, and I really encourage people to have a quick look at it. It's a simple read. And the point of this is you'll see it looks like the SDGs, we kind of cherry-picked those. We didn't really look at it, as we said. These are the ones that digital financial inclusion had an impact on. The Gates Foundation is looking at all of them. And for that, I want to show you briefly, if you could, our project here, which is involved someone that they put themselves forward as goal keepers, and they encourage some others to use the same. And that website is thegatesfoundation.org/goalkeepers. Please have a look at that. On that, you'll find a report, the 2003 Goalkeepers report. If you look at it and say that's a lot to read, I don't want to get through the whole thing. Please read through it. So it was published either in the New York Times or we could cover memo here. It tells you a good story about where we are. There's a lot of good news, and the report things are really improving well. But there's also some challenges that were unexpected. They make that out well. Now, in addition to the report, we have a kind of dashboard too. This isn't quite as intricate as the Aloha Plus dashboard, and this is our sort of data analysis, if you will, of all of the different sources that we have. But it's not active. This isn't a live thing. It's something to prepare. But I want to give you a sense of it, that once you've had a look at that, these are the different, each of these things here is a different strategy that we have within the Gates Foundation, how that's been applied. You'll see the reference here. But take a look at the one poverty. It'll show you what we're targeting. We have several lines running through that to show you the current projection, what the 2030 target is, and then what happens if we progress with realistic expectations, and what happens if we regress? What happens if things go badly? We stop investing, and we add all that. And you'll see in this particular case, it's very narrow range between 6% and 7%, depending on what we see. That is the market is pretty well doing something. Although the target is 0. That's a pretty big distance we have to travel. But it also shows the good news. We're down from 36% to 9%. So it's not doom and gloom, but it's also going to require probably a different strategy to get from where we are at 9% to 0 rather than to the 6%, which is the most optimistic number. This is the power of dashboards, and I want to reinforce that what the Aloha Plus dashboard is doing is fantastic. If you want to see that kind of local connection between the data, the people that are collecting the data, and those that can actually make a difference, find that through what that impact has on the global level. But it's obviously the local goals that matter most. You have to help yourselves. And then focusing on that, we all hear it before act locally, think globally. And in this particular case, if you act locally, you're actually going to act globally as well, if you follow that. That's really all I wanted to talk about. I wanted to show there's a connection between what you're doing. The Hub 2030 is a fantastic program. I love the UN Pacific. I think it's a stunning opportunity right now for Hawaii to really lead and show what can be done globally. So please take one of these from the back. We've got more of that. The pile runs out. We can get some more and check out some of the resources on the web. And thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Miller and the Gates Foundation, for being a multi-year supporter. Really, it's not easy to find sponsors. All of our sponsors that are here are really dedicated and want to see change created and want to connect with you. So take the time to talk to the sponsors and learn more about them, learn why they feel that the HACC is important. Our other 2 terabyte sponsors that were scheduled to speak this afternoon, unfortunately, were unable to make it. So I'm going to have a couple little quick comments. One of them was Christine Sakuda from the Executive Director of Transform Hawaii Government. Now, I'm a little qualified to speak on this because I actually worked for the coalition, with the coalition, and helped coordinate the coalition for about 3 years. So I can tell you a few of their talking points just off the top of my head. But basically, they are very proud to return as a sponsor this year. And they are really connected because their goal is to have government services that are streamlined, innovative, and delivered in ways that exceed the expectations of the public. And they really want to do that as a coalition of individuals that embrace technology as a bridge for better efficiency. They really work to advocate, educate, facilitate, and innovate in a number of different ways and on a number of different avenues. So it's not just one thing of we definitely want technology. They definitely want to see process change, and they want to make sure that the community is integrated into government and innovation. As an announcement, next week they are hosting a talk story with the State of Hawaii Chief Information Security Officer, Vincent Wong, who will share information on how the state government is taking steps to secure its data and infrastructure. They'll also be offering some cyber tips on how Hawaii residents can do their part to mount a strong defense of their technology and cyber areas in their own lives. So that's next week, Wednesday, October 24th at 8 a.m. If you visit their table right over here, which currently happens to be sitting at, but really Keith is working, then he can help get you more information and signed up to attend that event. They are really glad that this event links up coders and the community directly with the state departments. So thank you very much to Transform Hawaii Government. Our other multi-year sponsor who has been with us for 3 years now is, and they were unable to be here because of another event, but they will be also a judge at the event for November 10th is Kaiser Permanente. So you might wonder, why would a healthcare company want to be involved with a tech event? But really, Kaiser has been involved with the Transform Hawaii Government Coalition since the day it was formed, because they know that a more efficient government benefits all of the community. So they see technology and government as a key point that they can be involved with that will benefit our community. All right, that is the end of my announcement for right now. We are going to shift gears just a little bit to talk about the tools that you need to use to participate in the HACC. And this covers Slack, DevPost, and GitHub. I'm still a bit new to this whole coding side of things and hackathon, so I'm bringing in an expert, Philip Johnson, who is the professor here at the University of Hawaii in Computation and Computer Science.
Here's what you need to know. bit.ly, so it's a bit.ly sort of URL, okay? And then HACC, all uppercase, last time. You pick up the Slack, okay, so everything else that I say, you can find out if you sign up for Slack. That makes sense? Anybody use it? All right, so we got Slack. Are you going to put it up on the screen? Oh, there it is. Oh. Okay, there we go. Okay, so once you're signed up for Slack, you'll see this. How many of you guys have used Slack before? It's great. Not as good as Discord. Actually, I like it better than Discord because it's a little people playing games on Discord. We got a channel. When you sign up for this Slack workspace, you'll be automatically subscribed to a channel for each of the challenges. Okay, so if you want to find out what's going on in any of the other challenges or see materials associated with a specific challenge, you should go to the associated channel. Okay, the second thing is you'll see a channel called Team Recruitment. Okay, so if you're a person you're looking for a team to be on, you can post to that particular channel. You see Dean Anthony Ramos. He has experience with Django. No, he wants someone with experience with Django and Python. Dean, you here? He left. He just posted it. That's fine. The second thing is there's a technical support channel. So if you click down one more. Okay, there if you have any issues with GitHub or DevPost or anything else, or even maybe you're trying to deploy your app and you want some assistance, you can post to this channel. Does that make sense? There's a bunch of channels, a channel per challenge, plus 2 general purpose challenges. The other thing I would say is that if you're really interested, for example, in the food safety challenge, and you want to find a team or join a team specific to that challenge, you can post directly to that channel. Okay. That's the first one. The second thing is DevPost. So could you bring up DevPost? So this is the place, DevPost is a site that manages hackathons. So we have a special page in DevPost, which is called hack2018.devpost.com. So a very important thing is that you need to, before Wednesday, go to DevPost, create an account so that you're the user on there and join this hackathon. And secondly, you have to elect one of your teammates to be the leader of the team. And all that really means in this context is that that person will actually create a team which has a team name and a set of team members on DevPost. That has to be done by this Wednesday at midnight, because then we'll look at that set of teams and we'll create your GitHub repos for you. Okay, so there's a GitHub organization called HACC 2018. You'll work in repos inside that organization. You can't create those repos, we create those repos for you, which is why it's important by Wednesday to at least have established these are the set of teams. So the membership can change a little bit, that's okay, but we need to know by Wednesday what are the set of teams in this challenge so we can create the repos in GitHub, which allow you to then start creating code. Okay, we'll also, you go to the third thing, which is github.com. Okay, so you'll also need to create a GitHub account by Wednesday at midnight because we'll need your GitHub username in order to create a repo, which you have to protect. Let me see. We require for this hackathon that all of the code is licensed under the MIT open source license. So when we create the GitHub repo for you, there'll be a licensed .text file that has name on it. And then finally, okay, so if you click on challenges, we'll go back one. I'm really surprised by that. Why don't you try refreshing that page? That's better. Okay, so click on, if you go to this repo right now, HACC 2018, there's a repo in there called challenge information. Underneath there are a set of subdirectories, one for each challenge. And if you click inside one of them, you'll see not only the PowerPoint, you see Kick-Off there, Kick-Off DLNR rare plants.bptx. That's the PowerPoint that was presented this morning. You can look at that. Plus, if they supply us with any sample data sets, we'll put that in the repo. And this could be updated throughout the challenge. So as new data or materials become available, this is where we'll post it. And then we'll link to that in the Slack channel. The other thing is that we also made a video of the actual presentation associated with these PowerPoints. We'll post that someplace pretty soon. Any questions? So Slack now, dev post by Wednesday, and then starting after Wednesday, you'll be using your data.
As you all probably enjoyed, we're running early. Yeah. Okay, so what we are at now is some time for you to actually, you chatted a little bit during lunch, you were eating, you were getting things arranged, so you may not have gotten all the stuff together. You might have wanted to check out 2 challenges, so you might want to now go to the other person or other group. This is your chance to once again talk to the leads for your different challenges. We're going to move our little easels in around to the corners of the different areas. So there will be a challenge around each corner and a little one. So I suggest you shift around, move around. This is also time for you to get up and talk to other people about joining your team or trying to see if there's some other people that are interested in the same time that you would like your team. And you can start to check out some of those different things. So, first. We will come back for comments in about an hour.
What's up?
Helping out with this?
Yes.
Got Tanya into it. In the video.